Hello, my name is Jordan. This is Elseworlds DC fan podcast. With me today is Chris and Ron, and we're going to do it, guys. We are going to finally end the age-old debate on if Batmania was bigger in 1989 or during the Dark Knight. I'm just kidding. But if people saw that going around, people were actually having a real debate about that.
Because
No, it's our
Right
Supervillain
There's
Draft.
not a lot of news going around.
yeah. It's our Supervillain Draft. We're finally doing it. So, yes, we have Ronald back who did our superhero draft. And if you're looking at the order on the screen and you're wondering why I am not on the left-hand side like I usually am, it's because this is our draft order. So, how's everyone doing today, Chris? Let's start with you.
I'm doing good.
How you doing?
I'm doing good.
Ron, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, man. I'm all fired up. I was jamming out to that countdown music before we got started. I'm rearing and ready to go here.
Yeah, I saw Chris jamming out to it too.
Yeah, so I didn't know if you could see me, but I was like,
It's low-key catchy, man.
it really works.
Yeah, that's just the standard StreamYard countdown. I like it. But yeah, so we're doing our supervillain draft. So we're going to be drafting them based off the same premises as the superhero, correct? So if that's the case, Ron, do you want to describe how the rules on this again?
Yes, yeah. So this isn't going to be in particular, say we're all picking a team to line up in a coliseum and who's going to walk out alive. This isn't that. We're drafting in terms of what this character's stature is in the grand hierarchy of villains, period, in all of comic books, where they stack up all time in terms of longevity, impact, cultural impact, just all those kind of things, sort of. So definitely don't just look at these results and think, oh, B team would beat the crap out of C team, because that's not what we're doing here.
Yes, and our order is Chris, me, and Ron. That is the order. We're doing snake style, so then it will go Ron, me, then back to Chris, and then Chris to me, to Ron, and so forth and so forth. So that is how we'll be doing it. And I don't think we have anything else to talk about before we got underway. Anything else we want to speak about, or any rules we have to make before we start? I guess I should clarify for people that are listening. If there is a person that's played the role, played a hero, how am I supposed to describe this? If there's been a mantle, right? If this is a supervillain mantle that is passed down, I would say both of them are on the board. So I don't think there's as many of that as there are heroes, obviously. Like when I picked Spider-Man in our superhero draft, I feel somebody could have picked Miles Spider-Man as well. And you could have picked Gwen, Spider-Gwen, et cetera, et cetera. I don't think that is a case that much for villains, so it may not really come up, but I just want to clarify that for us before we draft.
Well, I don't want to give anything away, but I'm drafting 3 Jokers. I mean, 3, I don't know who, what.
Yeah, I think with villains...
Which Joker, the criminal?
Yeah, with villains, like you said, there isn't much more of that kind of mantle thing going on. There's really only one that I can think of off the top of my head that is actually multiple characters, and I don't even know if I see them being drafted in this draft. So I'm sure I'll mention them in the honorable mentions afterwards. But
okay.
Yeah, I don't think we should run into any problems.
Yeah, because I'm curious now on who that is. All right, so I guess let's get underway. I think we all know. Chris just let it slip, but I think for the first round pick, right, out of Gotham City, right? You want to confirm it for us, Chris? Who is it?
All right. Anyone see the laughing gas coming in here? I got a little smile on that face. With the first pick of the 2023 Supervillain Draft, it's the Clown Prince of Crime, the Joker. Yeah, it's the Joker.
I'm always impressed with your impersonation, because I had no idea you could do that until you randomly busted it out one time, and I was like, okay, I had no clue that was the thing.
Oh,
It's really close.
we've been getting Joker voice messages in our football group chat for like years now. It's one of the things I look forward to the most. I love it.
All I gotta say is, if the Joker ever met Lee Evans, whew, um,
You made me bust out a Joker laugh there.
anyway, the Joker's pretty obvious here. Since 1940, he has been the number one villain in comic books, number one villain for Batman. Batman has one of the top three. You can argue the order of rogues galleries, but he's the leader of the pack. Mark Hamill is the voice I hear when I read comics. It is who I am obviously imitating. And Heath Ledger's performance was maybe the best performance, bar none, in a superhero movie. One of the best movie performances ever. And the entire world, when you hear Joker, knows it. You can take Batman out of the equation and make $1 billion in the box office with just the word Joker. That's insane to
And
me.
the word Aquaman too.
Yeah, and it works for Arthur too. But actually, it's just an Arthur thing, really, guys. But,
Yeah, I was just gonna say it's the Arthurs.
So, if you want to reboot King Arthur, guys, now's the time. But
I don't know; those have failed plenty of times.
A live action reboot of Arthur the cartoon.
Yes, that's what I was thinking.
I
cartoon.
need the angry clenched fist meme in real life, damn it.
I just don't think you can beat the Joker, and I think his relationship with Batman and is just perfect. There's nothing more that needs to be said. He's the Joker.
Yeah, he's the perfect foil, and I feel like, so when I was making this list, I kind of divided these these villains into two categories. One was villains who have a noble cause in a horrible way to go about it, and then there's villains who are just evil and horrible for the sake of being it, and that is like the embodiment of Joker. There's no redeeming quality there. There's no, oh, I can see, why he wants to accomplish this thing, but he just goes about it in a horrible way. No, Joker is just horrible, and the perfect physical representation of everything that is wrong with Gotham, and the perfect foil to Batman.
Yeah, the Joker is, like you said, it's all of that. I don't have to reiterate it too much, but Mark Hamill Joker is my favorite interpretation of Joker. From the animated series, but also the Arkham Knight trilogy, the Arkham trilogy, gaming wise.
Yep.
The fact that he came back for that, and
Preach.
it was
I was literally going to mention
great.
that too. Yeah, like, oh god, even the video game, he was so perfect. And like in the last one, I won't do any spoilers because I don't know who's played it and not, but just the way they bring him back for the third one, and it's like, oh, it's just
it was
awesome.
It was a 2015 game. We're good.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
But
Crazy. It's been 8 years already.
Back, and
All right. So here's the thing with Mark Hamill is, Bruce Timm says this new Caped Crusader show is going to be everything the animated series is going to be. We already got that in the Arkham series with Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill, and Mark Hamill unleashed in those Arkham games, unfreaking believable. I would argue that Mark Hamill is the best Joker, but if you say Heath Ledger, I'm not. I have no argument. They're 1 and 1A to me.
Look, I'll save this hot take for the Dark Knight stuff, but Heath Ledger's not up there for me, really. I'm not a big fan of Heath Ledger Joker. So
wow.
What?
Yeah. I've been quiet far too long about this, but yes, I'm not a huge fan of him.
And I respect you forever, because I don't even think if I thought that I'd have the courage to say it. So congratulations. You're on the clock, I guess, because you'd already knocked us on our feet, so that's a great introduction.
That was ghost pepper spicy take. Like, I like unleashing a spicy take on Twitter once in a while, but that's even a little.
That's why I don't say it on Twitter. All right, look,
please don't say that on Twitter.
We can cancel Jordan.
I don't. Yeah, I just, for me, not to spend too much time on this. It's not like a take I'm trying to make out there either. It's just like it's
Yeah.
just how I feel
No,
about him.
you're
Like
good.
he does a good job. I think it's a little over the top the way people go on about it sometimes though. But okay, I will go ahead with my pick. I was debating back and forth about this one. I had a whole different pick maybe an hour ago, but I've switched it. I'm going with Thanos.
Ah! No! Oh,
Okay.
you did it to me again.
Okay. I was
Oh.
hoping he made it to 3, to be honest with you. So, yeah.
I almost
Damn.
debated Lex here for the fact that he's in so many Superman projects. He's constantly talked about. He is probably going to be in Legacy, right? Like
Mhm.
it's up and coming. But if I'm talking about how quickly a character has come into the zeitgeist and after Endgame and Infinity War, all the memes that Thanos created, that I don't think we can look away from his impact on the cultural stuff. I mean, just like the fact that, people talk about like the snap all the time on other things. I'm pretty sure it's been referenced in actual other movies and TV shows. Like he is at a certain point is transcendent uh I think what helps too is the fact that more people saw Infinity War and Endgame than they had seen the other MCU films. So
Absolutely.
that helps, but also the fact that he was just so powerful, and just like the way that they did him in Infinity War, where he was kind of the hero of that movie, that you got to see his motivations, you got to see some flashbacks, and the fact that he was successful, right? I think is something that isn't uh, to be. And I had no idea this is where you were going, Ron. So I feel pretty good now
Oh,
that I
yeah.
got this in it too, because
Ron,
I was thinking maybe it'll be there for me back. But I think just it is amazing how quickly Thanos has gone from people Googling him at the end of the Avengers end scene, um, in the theater, where I had people turning around in front of me and stuff like, "Who is that?" Right, and then becoming like this icon almost, that people are memeing about, and you see people making TikToks about the dusting, and people making Twitter memes, and it's just crazy how fast he's taken over.
Ron,
Twerking
you
Thanos, man. Twerking Thanos, gift.
Ron, you have Thor on your team. I'm guessing you should have gone for the head.
Yeah, yeah, for my superhero team. Yeah, man, it's goes back to what I was saying before about the two categories of villain. Like at the end of the day, Thanos just didn't want life to go extinct like it did on his planet. He just happened to do it in the most horrible, brutal, violent way possible.
In the
Um,
movie, I mean, and I think that's what's good too, is like Marvel knows when to pivot sometimes, right? Like his motivation in the comics is not something that is going to make all these people
no,
take him
no,
seriously,
he
where
just
he's
wants to
courting,
impress Mistress Death.
exactly, where he's courting literal death, right? Like having him actually have like something that you can look at and be like, oh, he's right. He's not going about it the right way, but maybe he's right. I think is what made him stick with people like the general public more.
Yes, that, and also something that I think they did really well that I wish Marvel had done with the current. I'm trying not to tip and name other picks, but the big bad that they're trying to push at the moment, and we just saw what happened with him in his movie this past February, and I feel like that just took all of the steam away from him. Whereas with Thanos, like they dropped him into post credit scenes, and he was in Captain Guardians of the Galaxy, but we didn't really see him do anything in any of those movies. He was just this large, intimidating, ever looming presence that we knew was getting closer and closer with each movie that passed, to the point where by the time Infinity War got here and you watch the end of Ragnarok, when that ship goes on top of all the Asgardians and it opens up with that scene, it's almost like he was like a myth by the time he got here. He was this legend, and like then we saw what he did in that first scene, and it was just like, oh baby, like strap in because this is about to get crazy. No, I think it's a great pick. I thought you were going to go somewhere else, but he's my clear 102.
Yeah, there was something too that was like, just real quick, revisiting those Infinity War trailers and what you were talking about and how they built up to them. There's a moment in one of these trailers, they cut it very well, but it's not like the actual, scene.
Mhm.
But for the first time, seeing in the Infinity War trailer, when Gamora's talking about her father, and then it cuts to Tony saying, like, tell me his name again, and she says Thanos, and you're like, oh my god, they're finally getting to this, like,
Yeah.
Thanos is here and they're hearing his name for the first time, and like, things are gonna happen. Yeah, it's pretty, it was like, that trailer really got to me back then.
Dude, the most dread I've ever felt watching a superhero movie in the theaters was when right after Banner crashes through the roof, and it's him,
Mm-hmm.
Strange, and Tony sitting there, and you just like everything just starts to vibrate, and it's just boom, boom, and it's like, what the hell is going on? It was, oh man, I literally have chills right now thinking about it. All
Yeah,
right, so it's me now. It's
yeah, it's
me.
Ron's pick.
Yes, it is. And I'm a bit reeling right now because I feel like I have, like, I would prefer to take two guys here over the one that I'm going to take. But I feel like I have to take this one just because it's too iconic, and I can't let you get Thanos in this one because I feel like it's an automatic lockup win for the draft. So I'll go. I'm gonna go. Yeah, fine. I'll go Lex Luthor. Um, admittedly, like, I hate to, this is your first round pick, and I'm kind of opening up, just being like, oh, I'm mad that I have him, and now I'm going to tell you why I'm mad. I'm mad that I have him, because Jesse Eisenberg very much kind of killed the character for me. I'll just be
Yeah.
dead honest with you.
Watch
Were you gonna?
Superman and Lois then, and then you'll be right back on track.
I think I do have to dive into that now. I mean, especially now that we're creeping up to the last season next year. I think it'd probably be time for me to watch that. But just he's just so goofy in the like woo. He like it reminds me of somebody like doing a bad impression of the Joker. Not nearly as good as yours, Chris. I'll tell you that much.
Well, it's
Um,
basically like the Schumacher Batman films where every villain is playing the Joker.
yes.
So
Oh, side note, by the way,
yeah.
last week I made a quick little error last week. I said the other Burton movies when I was referencing the Schumacher movies, Batman Forever
Uh-huh.
but I just wanted to, yeah, I had a mental slip up on that. Anyway, um
We'll let you
yeah.
slide.
So, but all Jesse Eisenberging aside, I mean, he's the biggest antagonist to what I think is the biggest superhero of all time. And I think the fact what's made him kind of stick around and why he's so interesting is that his biggest foe is a god, but he's just simply a man.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to really go deep with this, you can make the connections and say that Lex is sort of the physical metaphor for the fact that Clark's biggest struggles are always related to his connection to humans. And like Lex is almost like the physical embodiment of that in some ways. So I just don't love it personally, but I know just for the sake of the draft, I feel like I got to go Luthor for.
Well, yeah, I think if you're looking at the future, like, this is like a I don't want to say a Miss Marvel pick, right? But it's in the sense of like, because Lex Luthor is a bigger name. But what I mean by that is like, it's almost like potential, right? Like, because while Jesse Eisenberg may have kind of ruined it for a lot of people, he's on Superman and Lois right now. But then also there's heavy rumors that he's in Legacy, that they're going to be casting somebody
Yeah,
for him soon.
at the very
And
least. Yeah,
Give me
with the
Alexander
way
Skarsgård.
with the way that James Gunn talks about Lex, and like, he doesn't like the Gene Hackman Lex, he liked Michael Rosenbaum's Lex from Smallville
Mhm.
and called him the best Lex, and it's like, that's how I feel. So the fact that he might go more like sinister and understanding, I think what makes Lex very interesting, he's my favorite character in Smallville, is that he is, at a point he was a friend with Clark. That's not always the case, but in that show it was. And it's like, this kind of pool of how you can go wrong, right? Like, by trying for good. Like, his intentions are sometimes good. Like, I want to make sure that, look, if there was a real alien that came down here, would we all blindly trust him? right?
No.
Not a lot of people would. And you would think that there is going to be a guy like Lex who's going to think, I'm doing this for my people. I'm doing this for you.
Mhm.
And I like that type of take on Lex more than sometimes where he's just evil, twiddling his thumbs Lex.
Yep. It almost like in my head, I've always made a lot of parallels between Lex and Bruce Wayne. Like, I feel like there is some kind of reality where Bruce Wayne ends up becoming not literally Lex Luthor, but becoming that Lex Luthor figure, the rich,
Well, he
really
basically
smart.
was in BVS.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I think that's something that I've always found very interesting.
Your next pick, Ron.
Yes, so we had Lex at 4, and this one I'm much more happy with. This was who I was planning on going Thanos here, and that is Dr. Victor Von Doom at number 4. Perhaps I think the most widespread character specific villain. Like Thanos is just a Marvel villain, obviously. He doesn't really have one hero that he very closely identifies with. But Doctor Doom, yeah, he's a Fantastic Four villain. But we see him pop up with Doctor Strange. We see him pop up with Black Panther. We see him pop up with Iron Man. He is everywhere. Modern crowds probably best, at least comic book crowds, probably best know him for the most recent Secret Wars back in 2015. I mean, when you blow up the ones responsible for keeping the multiverse intact and then piecing the remaining fragments together to create your own planet and make yourself the God Emperor of that planet, it's definitely something you're going to remember. But he's been in countless other tremendous stories over the years as well. I guess the only knock you could really put on this pick is that we haven't really seen that truly great on-screen adaptation yet. But in terms of comic book villains, I don't, you're going to be hard pressed to find one more powerful and evil, like with such that combination, than Doctor Doom.
Yeah, that's a good pick. I was wondering when he would go because it does seem like he is I don't know if I'd say rising in the public consciousness, but there's a lot of people talking about Doom, and I think this is something they got to get right for Fantastic Four, whether he shows up in the first Fantastic Four film or later.
Supposed to
But
be in Black Panther. They filmed a scene for it and everything, and then they just
that was the rumor. Yeah, I don't know how true it was, but like the rumor was that he in Wakanda Forever that they had filmed with a stand-in and just like the mask and stuff, so that way they didn't cast the guy yet, because that's why nobody heard about casting. But I am curious to know if that actually happened or not.
I believe it was because they filmed the scene and then they had to cut it from the final. Like, I believe people actually saw the scene. I could be wrong, but
I don't know. I have a tough time with scoopers right now, so I'm kind of
honestly, yeah.
I'm so like down on that whole thing.
Hey, give him some grace. Sometimes.
Oh God.
No, Grace is the worst one.
Absolutely, but
Wink, wink.
we're not subtle on this podcast.
But no, there's so many of them that'll be like, oh, I heard this happen, and then like, oh, it was cut. And then you find out like from the writers, oh, that never happened. And you're like, okay, so we can't. But sometimes they still get stuff right, so you can't completely throw away everything they say.
Yeah.
Sometimes it just sounds like guesses.
A broken watch is right twice a day.
Took the words right out of my mouth.
So I'm curious on who I should pick here. I put, like I said,
this is where I think this is where a lot of subjectivity is going to come in, and I think we're going to be all over the board.
Yeah, I was thinking too just a second ago, like this is exactly what I did last time too, where I didn't put any thought into it except for my first pick, and then the second pick, I'm like, oh, I'll have to see who's there. Like, I don't want to get too attached to a pick and then end up having to
pivot,
change course here. My thought here is to go another Marvel one, and it might be one that is shocking, maybe. I think public consciousness, popularity, since we're doing that kind of stuff. The fact that he has his own Disney Plus TV show that's going for a second season now, I think I'm going to have to go with Loki. He was so popular after Avengers 2012 and even after Thor 1, but most people caught him in Avengers, because not everyone saw Thor. So the way how charismatic Tom Hiddleston is, the fact that he has numerous like comic lines at times, I think he has kind of taken over that. I mean, how many women like just fell in love with Tom Hiddleston Loki, right? Like it was just a thing, and he became so popular that they brought him back brought him back to life. I think he was supposed to die in Dark World, and they decided, never mind, we'll keep him because he's so popular. And just the fact of how much he's grown as a character as well in the MCU and how much people like him. This could be one that if you wanted to say anti-hero now, you probably could, but most of the time he's a villain and he's usually out for himself, and I really like that.
Yeah, I love the pick. I had him at 7 on my board, so not too far off. I mean, he was the focal point of the first Avengers movie, and I consider that to be one of the 3 most important comic book movies of all time. And I firmly believe it wouldn't have been as good if they just introduced some, like, if that was the Ultron movie.
Right.
I mean, I think he brought such a personality and identity to that movie in the antagonist role. I think, yeah, it's a great pick.
All right, so I'm on the clock, right?
Yep.
So I have a backup plan in case this is not an acceptable character. Do Star Wars characters count? So I know there's Marvel Comics Star Wars.
No, if you're going Vader, I can't count that.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say, yeah.
So my plan was to get Joker and Vader. So that I had a backup plan because I was like, if they don't accept that, I get it. So I'm gonna take 2 Marvel characters back to back here. I'm gonna take Green Goblin with my next pick because I don't think I can get him later.
No, you wouldn't. I can assure you that.
I think this is pretty obvious. Green Goblin is my favorite Spider-Man villain. I think he's everybody's favorite Spider-Man villain. The pumpkin bombs are awesome. Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man was really the Green Goblin in that. Other than the mask, was perfect. And then you fix that problem with No Way Home, and yeah, the Spider-Man come out to play. Oh, it's what a line! I love Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin, and I think he is the most important Spider-Man rogue there is in the comics. So he's my pick, and then my next pick.
Before you do that, I just want to talk about Green Goblin a bit because I thought about him. He was one of my options for my first pick, actually. But one thing that kind of settled on me not picking him was because I'm thinking, like, in the future here, I don't see, Kevin Feige's been very open about not wanting to reuse villains that were on the screen before for Spider-Man. So for me, I was thinking, like, I agree with you that probably Green Goblin's my favorite Spider-Man villain, and I really like Willem Dafoe's appearance. He was also one of the main villains, of course, in No Way Home, which was a huge film. But I just kind of thought we're probably never seeing this character again in the MCU, so I kind of lowered Green Goblin on my rankings.
I'm sorry,
I think you probably got him in a good spot.
Does Disney not like money? I guess it's a printing press. It'll happen again.
Yeah, well, I guess it depends. Is it happening again in the MCU, or is it going to be another reboot at one point when Sony goes their own way again? That's what I wonder, because what I would do if I was in charge, right, is, of course, I would have Peter go to college, and he would run into, like, his teacher could be Doc Connors, and he would already know that there was a Doc Connors that turned to a lizard before. He would try to prevent those type of things. Oh, and in his class is a Harry Osborn, and he realizes, like, oh crap, I can't escape these things. Like, this is just something that happens in these timelines or something, like, it could be something where he doesn't even have to recognize that too much, but just like, oh, I remember Osborn that went crazy like this. Or I remember Doc Connors that, you know, became a lizard due to trying to replicate his hand. And, you know, like, I think that would be a very interesting way for him to kind of deal with that kind of stuff, knowing their future and trying to prevent it. But I don't know if they will want to go that way, because I think they may think it's rehashing. They may think they may not be able to find somebody better than Willem Dafoe. But yeah, so I think you got him in a pretty good spot.
Yeah, and you know, it's not just a movie like specific thing. This is all over comics and all that too.
Right,
And
right.
Norman in the comic is not good. I mean, for those of you who haven't really like dove in to the Spider-Man side, given that this is a DC podcast, just Google Norman Osborn, Gwen Stacy, and do a little bit of reading there. Also, just the stuff of starting the Dark Avengers and all that off the heels of Secret Invasion. Like, he is a cunning MF, and especially I would say post those Raimi movies in the comics, they really have made an emphasis to make him like right at the top of that list. So yeah,
He's at times like an Avengers villain now too.
Yeah, he really
Mm-hmm.
does. Yeah, Iron Patriot.
Yeah, I'm really curious on where they go with him. If they bring him in as more like an Avengers threat, or, you know, and not have him be Green Goblin, have him be, you know, a Dark Avenger type thing. That's what I really wonder, is how they're going to do this.
Well, I think what they're going to do is they're going to have President Ross, Harrison Ford, kind of mirror a lot of his role post Secret Invasion. Instead of the Dark Avengers, it's going to be him starting the Thunderbolts, and that'll kind of be what that whole movie's about. It won't be he'll just be taking the Osborn role. I do think we are going to see him, though. I would say probably the third movie of this next trilogy. That would be my guess.
Anyway,
Chris,
yeah.
You're back up.
All right, and I'm going to stay in New York. I'm going to take the Kingpin, Wilson Fisk.
Wow. Oof. See, that's where we have some. I mean, he's not. I mean, I have him at like 12, but wow.
All right, so here's
that's a reach for me.
All right, so here's the thing. Vincent D'Onofrio's portrayal of him in Daredevil was absolutely fantastic. I think, you know, you have a guy that has multiple superheroes that he's the villain to. He is a powerhouse of a villain. I'm a fan. And also, I was like, you know, last time I went almost completely DC. So I wanted to get some Marvel in here. I got 2 Marvel guys in a row. And, you know, Kingpin, my favorite Marvel character that's not a hero.
Yeah, he's another one who's really kind of in current time. Well, I guess technically the stuff ended last year, but in terms of comics, him being the mayor of New York recently, and just kind of making life hell for all the superheroes there. Between that and the Daredevil show, like you mentioned, he's definitely on the rise, I would say, on this list. I mean, he was in the Spider-Man video game, of course, which is a massive success on all metrics. So I think if we come back to this draft in 2-3 years, I think that pick will probably be looking a lot better.
I like it now.
But he's another one. He's all over the place. He's a Spidey villain. He's a Daredevil villain. He's a Punisher villain. You know, he's kind of got his hands in all the different pies.
Yeah, so my pick is Mr. Negative. I'm just kidding. I'm not picking Mr. Negative. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into my pick. I have no clue who to take here. I'm just going to wing it here. I don't know if this is a good pick or not, but I'm going to go with the Reverse Flash is where I'm going.
Son of a
freaking
dang son! I thought I could get him later. Dang.
I felt like I looking at these lists of. I was looking at IGN's ranking of their top 100 supervillains to just refresh my mind and stuff like that, and they had some of these people like very low, and some of them were like a lot of Marvel ones very high, and I was thinking like, you know, like I've taken so many Marvel at this point. Let's go ahead and jump into some DC. Reverse Flash has definitely climbed up my favorite rankings as I've started reading more Flash comics, watching the TV show. And I think he has that. We've talked about it a lot on Flashpoint and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I really do enjoy Reverse Flash. I think the TV show helped boost his popularity too. I don't think he was as well known to non-comic fans before that. The changes they've made in comics recently, when Jeff Johns made him like such a hater to like go kill Barry's mom and all that kind of stuff, has really upped, I think, the villain as well. Like, just as how menacing he is. Because I think before all that, he's kind of goofy, of just like, I'm gonna wear the reverse of you, and I'm gonna, like
I'm
it
yellow.
could be really dumb, but like they've made it so menacing. I mean, you have the performance that you do in the Flash television show by Tom Cavanaugh. It just sells it, and look, they really could have nailed it even more if they put him in the movie. His rankings might even be on the rise. Actually, with how bad the movie did, maybe it's a little better they saved him. They can use him in the DCU, and his rankings can kind of go up. But
I thought I thought I could get Eobard later. I really did. I thought Thawne was going to be there.
I guess I should clarify. Yes, this is Eobard Thawne. I guess you could technically pick
Hunter's
Zolomon,
yeah.
Professor Zoom. Yeah.
Well, I mean, both of them have been called Professor Zoom, so
yeah, Hunter's more like Zoom and not Professor Zoom, but yeah.
Yeah, so the Zooms and the Flash words get a little confusing, but man, I thought I could get Thawne later. I actually like him more than the Joker, but I didn't think he had the cultural significance to be picked that early. So I was like, I'm gonna get him in next round.
Yeah, I think this is like the mid pick here right now. So I feel like I got him for good value.
It's great value. You got my guy.
I wish I had more to add. Honestly, me and Chris were just having this discussion about Flash's Rogues Gallery, and I think we kind of touched on it off screen a little bit too before we started here. Like, I got to catch up on the Flash comics, man. He's just he's one of those heroes that has just kind of slipped excuse me, through the cracks for me, and I don't really know why.
Well, yeah, I grew up watching Justice League Unlimited, so I had just that reference really for Flash growing up. And then I didn't watch the TV show until February. I just started watching it in February, and I knew of his Rogues Gallery, like Captain Cold and Grodd and Reverse Flash and stuff, but I didn't know as much about them. So I just really started reading more Flash comics over the last year or so. Like I was reading some of his comics before I watched the show too, like Dark Crisis. I subbed to like every single. I did the whole event, which was a mistake, but I did the whole event. Not that it was bad, but it was like too many comics to
it's long.
Be picking up every week. But and occasionally there were Flash tie-ins to that kind of stuff, so I would read those comics. And but I kind of grew up with Wally West and not so much Barry Allen. So as I started watching the show, I started enjoying Barry Allen more. I started seeking out comics more regarding Flash. Yeah, have you read any I assume you read Flashpoint, right?
That's the only one, literally.
Okay.
There's
some good ones.
There's some good ones.
I've been getting a lot of like the Jeff Johns run and the I haven't started them yet, but I'm about to dive into those, and I have started reading the New 52, which is only 60 some issues, so I'm trying to get that done.
I've read the whole New 52, and I'm on volume 8 of the Rebirth stuff, and then I started going back on the DC Infinite app and reading some of the Wally West stuff with Jeff Johns. I want to read the Mark Waid stuff at some point. That's one of my things. But
I love Mark Waid too.
Oh, he's so good. And what's amazing about Reverse Flash, though, what I want to say about Reverse Flash, because I didn't have the luxury of picking him, god dang it, is that he's not even part of the Rogues. Flash has the Rogues. He's like a Rogue Gallery member, but he's not really a member of the Rogues. He's he's his own thing. and he's
Yeah.
from the future. And dude, I mean, because you got Captain Cold, Mirror Master, Weather Wizard, and Golden Glider, and you got Eobard Thawne,
Captain Boomerang.
Captain Boomerang. You can't forget about the Aussie. Yeah. So
Well, the show did too, so you're fine there.
yeah, Captain Boomerang is one of those examples of the comics are always going to have things that work in the comics that they just don't. They're not cool. They're cool in comics. I don't know why, but they're just not cool.
Fair. All right, so we're back to me, and I am
Yep.
sprinting up to the podium to make this pick. I didn't think there was a chance in hell this guy was getting back to me, but with my third pick, I am taking Magneto.
Wow, that is a good value.
Truly a villain, probably more than any that you can empathize with. A Holocaust survivor who just sees the way that mutants are treated and viewed in the world, and is basically just out to make sure that that process doesn't repeat itself. And guess what? Depending on which comic run you're reading, a lot of times he's right, with the way that the world goes about mutants. The term villain almost feels relative with him, except for the fact that he just his approach is so bad so often, and he can be blinded by his hatred of Charles sometimes. But at the same time, that's what makes them so close. It's such a deep, complex thing, and both the X-Men movies, obviously, for good reason, have been sort of the butt of the joke a lot of times in more recent years, but none of those can be said about Magneto's performances, whether it's Sir Ian McKellen or Michael Fassbender. He's incredible. He's the first villain you think of when you think of the X-Men. The X-Men are one of the most popular teams, obviously, so I think getting Magneto at this, I think, it might be the best value of this draft so far.
Yeah, I felt like he's somebody that you could take at number 2, you could take at number 3,
Yeah.
you could take at number 1. But it
Yeah.
is really tough to figure out when to take Magneto. Yeah, I debated it instead of Reverse Flash, but I did want to get a DC person in there because I wasn't sure.
Yeah, it was literally I almost went them two and just punted on Lex because I really didn't want him, but I'm glad I didn't now. So this is where I'm really struggling. Not struggling in the sense that I can't think of somebody, but because it's just, where do I want to go? All right, I'm going Venom. Pretty much the anti-Spider-Man. He's a parasite who infects and corrupts Peter to be everything that he stands against. He's obviously kind of fit that bill of the anti-hero, especially in recent years with Tom Hardy and all that stuff. But I think Venom's real height, probably right in that sweet spot in the 90s with the animated series. Like, when I think of the Spider-Man animated series, he's the first villain I think of from that. It's Venom for me. And just personally, I think, and definitely the argument can be made, maybe the coolest design of any villain in comic book history.
Yeah. That was I was kind of surprised there that it took this long to get to Venom. I've debated Venom for quite a bit now on when to pick him. I was hoping he would get back to me for this next pick and I would be able to grab him then, but unfortunately not.
He fell down the board a little bit thanks to the That 70s Show kid. I forget his name off the top of my
Topher
head.
Grace.
Topher Grace.
But he has a whole the trilogy of movies, because he's got his two movies, and they just started filming the third one when the strike started happening. So there was he made close to $1 billion, 800 million, I think, for the first one. So yeah, I mean, pretty. He's a pretty big deal when you look at villains over time here. So
yeah, and I think the movies have all been, the general opinion seems to be kind of split on them so far. I think they've been awesome. I can't wait for the third one.
I did not like the second one at all.
No, at all.
No. Yeah, no, the second one is one of those movies where I was looking at my watch, like, how long is it? Was only 90 minutes, and you're like, this is the longest 90 minutes of my life, is how it felt for me.
I definitely much preferred the first one, but I at least enjoyed the second one for what it was.
The first one's okay. I'm not too big on those movies. I did like that they, bothered to put him into No Way Home. I thought that was a nice touch, but
I wish they did more with it, but yeah.
Yeah. I actually do like Topher Grace Venom, though. There you go. Hot take central over here today. Okay, let's see here who I'm gonna pick. I've been scrolling on my list here because there is one I want to pick, but I'm like, do I pick them now? And I think this just goes to show you, Chris, right now that me and Ron were totally right that Spider-Man has the best villains, because I feel like we've taken way more Spider-Man villains than Batman at this point.
It just means the Joker carries that much weight.
And this will continue because I am going to pick Dr. Octopus.
I
like it.
He is like up there for me. If Green Goblin's number one, Doc Ock is number two for me for Spider-Man villains. Not just because of the performance by Alfred Molina, but just overall, I think Doc Ock is really cool. He is a huge part of the Spider-Man video game, which is my favorite interpretation of Spider-Man of all time. And I think that there's a good performance there. You have Alfred Molina doing it great in two films. I think that it is harder for me to see another Doc Ock than there is a Green Goblin. I think Green Goblin can probably be played similarly, like how Joker is passed down mantle to mantle. But when I think of Doc Ock, I think of Alfred Molina, and I do think of the cartoon and stuff too. I mean, I just think, like, ultimately, when you also look at the fact that Doc Ock has also been popular enough to become a Spider-Man himself by taking over Peter's body as Superior Spider-Man, just goes to show the power behind this supervillain that they're like, we just need more Doc Ock all the time, So I think he's up there for me, and I'm gonna have to go with him now.
I respect it.
Yeah.
I like the pick a lot.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. He's somebody that I considered between him and Venom when I was just on the board there. I don't think Molina's performance can be touched either. If they do decide to go back to the character, I would like to see maybe go the into the Spider-Verse route, maybe get Olivia in there instead, just to kind of switch it up, because I don't think you can replicate Molina. And the way that he was able to step back into it, just like Defoe, and not miss a beat in No Way Home and still be just as good and just as, in his case, very sympathetic.
Yeah. It was great to see them back in No Way. I don't care if people don't like that movie sometimes. I know that, there's the popular, like 6 months after every movie releases, the opinion becomes negative on any movie. Right? That's how it seems.
So,
because
that is a litmus test for me right there, though. If you are in the No Way Home was a bad movie crowd, like, you are not somebody that I want to talk superheroes with. Like,
oh, absolutely.
That was the best movie theater experience I ever had in my entire life. It
was crying, really good.
People were, and it wasn't annoying or over the top or anything. Like, it was just, dude, everything about that movie was,
and everything serviced Tom Holland's Spider-Man too. It wasn't just to fit this stuff in there, like, I don't want to rag on The Flash because I did like the movie, but it's not like just seeing Nick Cage at the end. You're like, what? It all made sense in the movie, and it was for the service of the story.
Yeah,
that's how you do multiverse. That's how you do multiverse.
Yes. Yep.
I'd argue the Flash did multiverse very well, but you are right. That's how you do it. It was, dude. I'll tell you what. I love Spider-Man No Way Home. I came out of the theater the first time seeing that, and it was the first one back from COVID. Because actually, no,
Mhm.
it was the second one because I saw the Batman, and no, it was the first because Batman was after that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was the first one back from COVID that I went to, and I just left that theater on such a high, and I was just so jacked up and ready to go. I was
I
just,
saw that movie 5 times in theaters.
Same. Literally 5 times.
I saw it twice, but if it wasn't for COVID, I would have seen it 5 times in theaters.
I would have seen it 6 times if it wasn't for COVID, and it would have broken my damn streak, my longest streak, which would have been great.
Oh, yeah. I
Yes.
can't say enough about that. I'm gonna watch it tonight now, actually.
So,
There you go.
so we're going to Gotham. Just, this is my pick, right? We're going to
Yes, sir.
Gotham. And we're going to pick my favorite rogues gallery of Batman character, not named Joker. Give me Harvey Dent. Give me Two-Face.
Hmm.
Harvey Dent Two-Face is iconic in the comics. The Long Halloween and Dark Victory are my favorite comic book stories. Face the Face is a great Harvey Dent story. Eye of the Beholder, I just read actually recently. In terms of comics, Harvey Dent has gotten his due. I think he's been shortchanged in the movies a little bit. I think in The Dark Knight, you got so little Two Face after the actual transformation of
They should have
Harvey
built
Dent.
him up for Dark Knight Rises
Yeah,
instead.
I
Yeah,
agree.
that's where I
Completely.
would have gone 100%. Not that I want to criticize The Dark Knight. I worship at its altar, but I,
Well,
I
it's not really. I don't want to knock you off your point. It has nothing to do with the Dark Knight. It has to do with the Dark Knight Rises, which I
Yep.
don't know.
yeah.
If this is a spicy take, because Jordan set the present. I'm going to say it. I think the Dark Knight Rises stinks. I hate that movie with a passion.
I
Like
have
I
problems
literally,
with it. I have
I
problems with it.
even when I've gone back, like, because at the time I was coming off that high of the Dark Knight. Obviously, I mean it was years later, but the last thing we had seen was the Dark Knight, and in my mind it was this perfect thing, and it couldn't have been any better. I was like, how are they going to top it? Oh crap! And it fell so flat for me. It was a,
It was a letdown.
pissing on cotton.
Look, not to get too much into my problems with The Dark Knight Rises, but the fact that Batman is sidelined for like 8 years,
Yeah.
and it was Batman for like maybe a year or two total, and then you have him. Bane is not a strong enough villain for
Mhm.
me. You have random Talia in it and Selena. I don't know. It's a little bit of a mess. I don't like the ending either, but
All right.
No,
there you go.
all of it's bad, and like they had the like.
The
I
best
know, I
part,
know
best part,
that.
Heinz Field gets blown up. That's the best part.
Sure. I know that they were going for the super grounded feel in that movie, and like yeah, we saw him die at the end, but you're gonna tell me they couldn't have done some comic book thing to bring him back and have him be the villain of that third movie? Like, come on. Like
I agree.
it was a perfect set. I thought that's where they were gonna go with it. And then from the first trailer when I saw it was Tom Hardy talking like this, I was like, oh no. And it just got it confirmed all of my fears when I saw it.
I want to get back to Two Face just a little bit, but I will
Yeah,
say
Yes.
good.
before we get on that, I will add on to the thing. Bane shouldn't look like a guy who goes toe to toe with Batman. He should dwarf like Batman. He should
Yeah.
be he like CGI Bane is the way I would go. I'm sorry. He should look closer to Thanos than like a person. Like he shouldn't.
Mhm.
But that's and then the mask was a little yeah. Um.
Very much.
Yeah,
Yes.
I don't like Bane at all in anything, so I'm fine with him not existing.
All right.
Terrell
But go ahead.
Suggs made that mask.
Yes, Terrell Suggs made that mask work. T Sizzle is always good. But we are a Baltimore strong podcast. I back to Two Face. The animated series did really well with him. The comics, he's an essential villain. His connection with Bruce Wayne in various forms in the comics has been great. I I love Harvey Dent Two Face. I think he's one of the most important characters in Batman lore. I hope he gets his due in the movies. He was in Batman Forever, and he was in The Dark Knight. But this is a guy that I think if I have one request from James Gunn when it comes to the rogues for Batman, give me a good Two-Face.
Hmm.
I think he fits better in the Reeves verse than the other one.
Well,
I
I'll
think
take it
this
from
is
Matt
where,
Reeves after what he did to the
yeah,
Riddler.
yeah,
He made the
yeah.
Riddler
I think he'd be
interesting.
great.
Like, who makes the
Yeah, I think
Riddler
he'd be great.
interesting? So, yeah, but I love Two-Face. All right, and then
I almost picked Two Face where Reverse Flash was. I was debating between
mm,
Magneto, Venom, and Two Face, and I went with Reverse Flash. But this is our last round starting, right? Because we do
yeah,
5 each.
Yep.
So Chris, for your last pick.
I know it's daunting, and I can't believe he's on the board. And I kind of want to go back to Gotham. There's a place I want to go, but I can't let this one go. I'm going Darkseid.
Yeah.
I can't let Darkseid go undrafted. That just doesn't sound right. I
No.
think he's toe to toe with Thanos. If it wasn't for the MCU, it wouldn't be a conversation. They would be equals. And DC can't get anything right. We could have had a glorious dude. What in Zack Snyder's Justice League when he says "Prepare the Armada, we will use the old ways." I want him to use the old ways. I am so down for that. Like Zack Snyder's Justice League getting the continuation. I wanted to fight for that for a while. I got to the point where like realism kind of stepped in, but Darkseid in the animated stuff is fantastic. The Superman Batman story, uh, the girl from Krypton was fantastic. Uh, so there's awesome dark side stories. He's sinister. He's pure evil. It's a little daunting to make it my last pick, but to start off with Joker and end up with Darkseid, I'll take it.
Yeah, yeah. He was probably going to be my pick if he somehow made it back to me. I'm sure we're going to get an email. How did Darkseid make it to the last round? But um, I think for a lot of casual fans, when you think of Justice League, like that's who you think of as the villain.
hmm
It's Darkseid, and I think that connection has been there for a long time. It was only solidified with the Snyder movies, and I would say there's one Marvel villain who I'm not going to say because I might take him, and Darkseid are probably the two most, and Thanos obviously are the most just like intimidating. Like when you see him on a comic panel, like they strike fear into you. You're like, oh crap! It just yeah, Darkseid's the man.
If done right, he scares the living daylights out of the audience. If done right, Darkseid is more intimidating. Maybe not better, but more intimidating than Thanos. Because Thanos had a point. Darkseid
Yep,
is just the embodiment of evil.
just conquer. That's it.
I haven't read too much about Darkseid, so I can't put him anywhere really. Uh,
Anywhere.
I mean, like I just like I get he was first before Thanos, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
but it's like DC has to kind of avoid it a bit because they're too worried probably about looking like they copied Marvel now. Um,
Let's just break
but
all the rules.
I don't
Let's
know. I'm
don't
not a
worry
big
about it.
fan of Zack Snyder's Justice League, so that doesn't really do it for me.
Wow, we are.
Um,
Oh yeah, the Scovilles are up high today, baby. We're dropping all the spicy takes.
We're gonna get 18 emails just from Jordan.
I look, I look, I liked it. I didn't like. It's too
I
long.
thought it was a little
It,
overrated too. I enjoyed it a
too long.
lot, but I think people make it a lot bigger deal
It's
than
4
it is.
hours and I watched it 5 times. It can't be bad.
It just says something about your patience, I guess.
Uh,
5 times of 4 hours long.
dude, it's
Oh my
so
god!
good. It's a
I could
freaking
cut the last 40 minutes
masterpiece.
of it. It'd be better if they got rid of all the nightmare crap. Um,
Okay, so if I had one
and
request,
Joker asking Batman if he wants a reach around or
hey, if I
whatever.
had
Yeah.
one request, I would have just left it off. Would have just left it off before the nightmare sequence. But the Flash's scene, turning back time, one of the best of the best.
Mhm.
My favorite scene in all of comic book movies. And I just thought it was an absolute masterpiece where and it felt so rewarding because I knew there was more there than what we got. And when you with all the drama and all that it took to get that out there, this is my big resentment with the Snyder Cult. We got that. They pushed for that. They raised a lot of money for charity. There was a lot of good, but all the things that went into this coming out and coming to being, we got the visualization of Zack Snyder's vision. We
That
got,
is so massive.
I'll say
it's so
part of
great.
it.
And we
I'll
should
say
have
part
just
of it
been
is
okay with
on
that.
part of it is on Zach, and what I'll say for that is he made the movie he wanted to make, which is great, but he also made it as if he was still making his plan 2 and 3 parts. So what I mean by that is the nightmare stuff, right?
Mhm.
Like in that case, people then still had the hope of, oh, now we can ask WB to sell it to Netflix, and like it got more in their heads that there's still an unfinished story here. Let's go see it, instead of just like if he ended it just fully, like, hey, look, you're not coming back for this, man. Like, just finish it. And if it did get popular enough where they were like, Zach, please come back, he would still be able to make those other 2 movies.
He made a no compromise movie because he was in a position to not have one compromise. I respect it. After everything they put him through, after they butchered his movie with Joss Whedon, after his daughter died, I I the, I think he fans the flames. I think he could control some of the chaos, but no, I don't have a problem for him putting his vision. That was what we were. I was pushing the hashtag restore this release the Snyder cut. When we got it though, I thought we had won and the battle was
Right,
done.
right,
And then I thought, oh, we're not going to build off this. We can't have a cinematic universe that doesn't work for the general audience.
right.
I never was in this. Oh, we can't get behind James Gunn because we're not getting the Snyderverse thing. But I'm a Snyderverse fan. I am. I'm just not
And
part of the cult.
it did go to show how strong our voice really can be as fans when we voice it and voice it the right way. Now they've kind of become the Harvey Dent. You either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And now they've just their heads got so big when that happened. And I was with you, Chris. I was very much a Snyder Cut guy. Release that. But when you can't accept the win and it's always got to be more and you're harassing people, most notably James Gunn, you really lose people, and it's a shame to see what that movement has become. But I like to hold
It
on
breaks
to
my
the
heart. That movement breaks my heart because there's so many people in that movement that aren't what you think of with the Snyder Cult.
Yeah,
But we all shut up and took our ball and went home.
exactly. That's what's
Well,
changed.
there were so many. The issue was too that like there were the reason why WB is so hesitant about doing this anyway is exactly what has happened since then, right? Is that it gave them too much power to where they think that they can control this type of stuff where they throw fits. The problem I really have with it is the disingenuousness that comes from it afterwards, where people are trying to act like Guardians 3 was a flop and
Oh
that
my
James
God, it
Gunn's whole
is.
thing is
Yeah.
going to be a flop. It's like, just look, you got your movie. Now, like it or not, like move on, right? And, you know, I'm a fan of release every cut, right? Like in the sense of
Yeah. Give me the
Star
Schumacher
Wars.
cut,
Hey, release all of the theatrical cuts,
the
whatever.
air
Let
cut.
George keep tinkering with them if he wants, whatever. Like release any single cut. You can price it out the ass if you want. They'll buy it, right? Like
Yeah.
it's like for anything. The Flash. Show us the deleted scenes from the reshoots. Show us the deleted scenes that show Henry Cavill and Ben Affleck in the post-credit scenes. You know what I'm saying? Like you lose nothing from that, especially that universe is dead anyway.
Yeah.
Like just let the hardcore fans see it. I don't understand why we always have to act like too many people are wrapped up in canon as well, where they'll be like, well, where does this fit in the canon? Blah, blah, blah. Doesn't matter. Just either like the thing or not. Like, we don't have to debate it and like print out a real timeline and,
I agree.
stuff like that. People get too obsessed with that, where then that leads the studios to think, well, we can't do this thing. Like what I would want to do too, like if I was Disney, I'd get George's permission and I'd be making comic books or releasing the scripts of his treatments, his pitches for 7 through 9, because you know what, hardcore Star Wars fans are gonna buy it, right? Like it should be simple to just do that stuff. I think
And
they
you would
think
have
it'll
a
undermine
podcast
their
all about it
movies.
too. You'd have
Yeah.
material for life.
Yeah, I mean, the same thing with the Duel of the Fates, Colin Trevorrow's script. Release the whole thing. He doesn't have to leak it. Just release it out and put it in a comic book or whatever. People will buy it.
Yeah.
I think
I'm a Darth Maul
they
stan. I would
worry
have
too
bought that
much.
hook, line, and sinker, man.
Yeah, and look, we talk about gatekeeping as fans. The studios shouldn't gatekeep and decide what they'll play with and what they won't play with. Once you put it out there, just if it's on camera, just give it to me.
We're actually
right.
we're seeing it. We just had a little bit of news come out today that Aquaman cut both of their Batman scenes because they didn't want to promise on a universe that they couldn't, fulfill. It's like
3 years is short on
that.
that. Like you could have done that 3 years ago.
I get the approach, but it's like, we know that this universe is dead. Who cares? We just want to see these characters again.
I just wanted Batfleck. I just wanted Batfleck one more time. It doesn't hurt anything.
Movie. Who cares? Right?
I didn't freak out when I saw George Clooney. I enjoyed it because I knew nothing was coming of it. Now you have articles. Yeah. Is George Clooney the DCU Batman?
Oh my God!
Out
People
of here with
don't
that.
Understand literacy in media anymore. I mean, the fact that people were literally tweeting James saying, "Does this make Clooney the DCU Batman?" No, it doesn't.
Use common sense. Guess what?
Barry's stuck in his own different timeline now, and we're done with it. That's what it means, and we're moving on.
So he's drinking beers with Aquaman, as we saw in the post credit.
It's the funniest thing about the Flash is it flopped, and my biggest complaint is the post credits. That's it. I just can't get over it. It's can't
not
get
a good
over
end credit scene.
No. It's horrible. It's horrible because I feel like it's just to include Aquaman, but he's grown past that in his arc. It's
to here's what it is. It is to remind people that there's a movie coming out with Aquaman and that it's still going to be Jason Momoa. That it's still going to be Jason Momoa and not, I don't know, George Clooney, because they can't understand the difference anyway.
Kill me.
So that's what it's for. But didn't they say Arthur can't get drunk anyway in Aquaman or something, and then he shows up drunk in this? It's confusing.
Well, that was a different universe Aquaman. Who knows at this point?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Barry changed the cans to the top row, so now he can get drunk.
Yeah, I guess, Butterfly effect, man.
Butterfly effect. All right, well, we got 2 more picks to go here. I'll go number 14. My 5th pick, I have Harley Quinn. I'm going to go with Harley Quinn. People will say she's anti-hero. I am going to pick her as a villain. She's introduced as a villain. She's Joker's sidekick. She's got her own animated show now. She's been in movies recently. She started out as just an animated series character and has become a full-time comic book character, has her own comic lines, has constantly become probably one of the most cosplayed characters of all time recently.
By far,
popularity is continuing to climb, continuing to be on the rise, and I think I got her for a good value right now.
Well, I was going to draft her, but the Joker kicked her out.
Yeah, now she's thriving without him.
Yeah, without her pudding.
Honestly, though, that's a pick that I think could be a lot sneakier than we think when people look at this draft because of the Margot Robbie effect, and just how much she has given a character that didn't really need a rebirth because people still knew and loved Harley Quinn, but gave her a totally new identity, one that is very awesome.
I love Harley Quinn. I was going to be my pick if Darkseid wasn't there, but Darkseid was there, and I was like, I can't not do it. But Harley Quinn animated series is so fantastic. I love that show. I think the idea of her and Poison Ivy being a thing, just keep that forever. That's perfect. I love it. And I think Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. I don't. It's hard to beat that casting. It's insanely good. That's why when people are like, "Oh, could Margot Robbie still be Harley Quinn in the DCU?" Like, you're telling me you're going to recast Harley Quinn? Like, you're telling me you're going to recast Harley Quinn? I don't know if you want to do that, man. Like,
People
it's just a
worry too
different
much
Harley.
about people being confused. Um, I think there is something to say about like some things need to change, right? But if something is popular because of the actress or actor playing the role, you keep them, right? And
Yeah.
then
Hmm.
you get rid of the stuff that is not as popular. And as much as people want to say Henry Cavill was their Superman, he wasn't as popular as Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn is to her fans, right? So like
Mhm.
that take meaning like there's a reason they're going to keep her as Harley Quinn and not keep Henry Cavill. Plus Henry Cavill's getting up there.
Look, the only reason Birds of Prey made money at all was because Harley Quinn was attached to it. That's why she even was part of the title because she's not really a Birds of Prey character. Um,
Yeah.
they they know she's the one thing that works. She was in Suicide Squad, and and I'm talking about Suicide Squad, not the Suicide Squad.
Well, that's probably
She
why
was,
that
yeah,
movie made money.
yeah. I look, if she wasn't in Suicide Squad, that whole thing doesn't even kind of work. It wouldn't have been a movie that made money but is critically hated.
Yeah.
It would have it and audience was hated too, but it wouldn't have been a dumpster fire. It would have been a dumpster fire that made no money. I mean, Will Smith wasn't carrying that alone, guys. Just wasn't.
It's it's so crazy to think about. I would say the first Suicide Squad and Morbius are probably the two most hated superhero movies that I can think of. The fact that that
Justice
movie
League.
birthed,
Fantastic Four stick,
they're
fan four
all up
stick.
there, but you get it. Yeah, there's a very select list that are just bottom of the barrel, and the first Suicide Squad is in that barrel. The fact that she was able to come out of that movie still and be at a time there, I think maybe the most popular thing. It was a short little run, but to your point, everyone was dressing up as her. She was everywhere on TV. Like she was potentially the most popular thing going. And yeah, just a slam dunk last round pick for sure. But now we get to Mr. Irrelevant. And it stinks because I really wish I was able to incorporate more DC into this list. The fact that I didn't go to Gotham anywhere in my list is very sad. It's just kind of the way things
You
fell.
can still do it.
Um, I could, and like I would love to go Scarecrow, Jonathan Crane. There's, a few different Mister Freeze I could go, but I can't pass up the Eater of Worlds, Galactus. Unfortunately,
Good pick.
it doesn't get much simpler than a hungry being who wants to eat planets.
This is who I thought you were talking about, and I was thinking about taking Galactus as well.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't get more simple. Like I said, he's hungry. He wants to eat planets. He's got a backstory. Gallon in terms of like his planet was going to crap, and he was telling all of his people, and they wouldn't believe him. So he flew into the beginning of the Big Bang, all that stuff. But really, for him, it's just all about purely being imposing. Not that's not the character's motivation, but what makes him stick and what makes him so relevant. I mean, imagine looking up in the sky one day and seeing a face the size of your planet staring back at you.
Or a
Um,
cloud.
yeah, don't even get me started. But he's horrifying. He is megalophobia personified, and I cannot wait because I think he's going to be the villain of the MCU. Um, Fantastic Four movie. There was some rumors that Antonio Banderas had signed on to play him. If that is true, I am so excited, and I can't wait to see how Feige can tackle this character. But
He also
he's
births the Silver Surfer, right? So that's
yes,
another feather in his cap too.
yeah, and it's funny because I was almost going to go Surfer over him, but I didn't know how it would be perceived if I took his Herald instead of the actual character.
Right.
Not can't go wrong with either one though, of course. So yeah, Galactus, Mr. Irrelevant, even though he's anything but.
All right, so let me recap here. We had Chris take Joker, and then he took Goblin, and then he took Kingpin, and then Two-Face and Darkseid.
Oof, that's good.
I took Thanos, Loki, Reverse Flash, Doc Ock, and Harley Quinn.
Damn.
Oh, that's a pretty solid lineup now.
Yeah.
I think it's like 3 and 2, 3 Marvel, 2 DC.
Mhm.
And then Ron took Lex Luthor, Doctor Doom, Magneto, Venom, and Galactus.
So basically,
is
you couldn't go wrong. You couldn't go
Yeah,
wrong
this
with
is
this draft.
neck and neck. Holy crap. I don't even know whose list I like more. And I drafted one of them, legitimately.
Yeah, I got to be honest with you. Joker is the best thing I did, and it was the automatic one. But I love every one of these lists, guys. You couldn't go wrong in this villains draft. I think villains are the most fun of superhero stuff. Like
Mhm.
they provide the conflict.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Otherwise, yeah, what's the point if there's not an equally or more
mhm. They
compelling
make the heroes
opposing
interesting. They make
force?
the heroes more interesting. But a lot of these villains have stories of their own that propel their own stories. They're the hero of their own stories. So that was a good draft. I got so many honorable mentions. It's nuts.
Me
Uh,
too. Me too.
Yeah, I'm starting to write some down here. I have Kang the Conqueror, Apocalypse, Ultron, Brainiac. I think I would have taken Kang if the Jonathan Major stuff didn't happen
Yep.
because I really do enjoy his comic book stuff, and I think the character was on a rise here. And then we kind of don't know what's going to happen here at all with recasting or if they're keeping him, if he's innocent, if he's guilty, conflicting stuff going on in
mhm.
court with all that kind of stuff. So uh just kind of put a downer on the whole situation
And that's who
because
I was referring
yeah,
to in the
yeah,
beginning when we were talking about, somebody who may be multiple different. I was talking about Kang because he's Kang,
right, right.
Scarlet Centurion. I considered it with the last pick as well, but because of that, that's why I also held off. I have here Dark Phoenix, Red Skull,
Hmm.
Sinestro, and oh shit! Oh, I closed out my list. My bad. Hold on, let me get it back up. And I had one more. Oh, Ray Shagul.
I almost picked race, so there you go. Um, that some good lists there. All right, so I left off Riddler. I didn't think he was popular enough, but he was in Batman Forever and the Batman. So I thought
Penguin.
uh, I don't care about Penguin. Um,
He's about to have his own TV
and I'm gonna
show. I
enjoy
mean,
it,
he's
but
up in
I
the.
enjoy him in Matt Reeves' verse, but most of the time I don't enjoy Penguin. All right, Captain Cold, Gorilla Grodd, Mr. Mxyzptlk,
I'm
and
not writing him down because I'm not spelling that.
that's fine. I don't blame you. In fact, I was like, did I spell it right? And then I was like, I don't care. And I'm looking at my list. And then Mirror Master as well.
I wrote him
Did
as
anybody say
Mixie
Zod?
instead of.
Oh my
No, we have not said
goodness.
Zod yet.
Wow.
Yeah. Zod, Ultron, Apocalypse. Man, it
I
just.
have, yeah, I have them on there. Um, I have Apocalypse and Ultron on there. I also added Black Adam
Okay, yeah.
because he is technically a villain.
Tell
The
The Rock that.
hierarchy of the universe
Brainiac.
will forever be changed.
Hey,
Is Zod with
I
one N, one D, right? Yeah,
1Z.
one D though, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I was writing Grodd as well, and Grodd's 2D, so I
yeah.
was a little confused here. Um, who did we say other than Zod, real quick, that I didn't add on here?
Zod. I said Apocalypse.
Uh huh.
I mean, dude, there's so many.
Granny goodness, dude.
Like you could literally just for an hour have that list going of people who we could have thrown into this. Deathstroke. I mean,
Mhm.
yeah, it's We could literally sit here all night.
Bizarro.
Oh my God,
Bizarro, yeah.
Bizarro! I should have picked Bizarro. No, I do like Bizarro though.
Vandal
Mephisto.
Savage.
Oh my God, we didn't even say Doomsday. Oh my goodness!
Yeah, no Doomsday.
Like it took
Anti-Monitor.
forever for Doomsday, Anti-Monitor, Crisis on Infinite Earths. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. But it really goes to show. And I'm hoping to hear a lot of people's takes after they watch this, and see what people would have done differently and where they stack up these villains. I think, for the most part, I don't think anyone will be able to say that the people we picked don't deserve to be where they are. They may have some people that they would have rather seen get taken, but I don't think you can make the case that anybody drafted in this draft should not have been drafted.
No, supervillains are, I mean, the ones that we picked out of were pretty much big Avenger villains, big Justice League villains, Batman villains, Spider-Man villains, Flash villains, and Superman villains. That's who we took.
Yeah.
So that's not a bad list.
No.
It's not like we were pulling, like, it's not like we drafted Granny Goodness, like Chris said.
I said
think
that
you
as
can
a
make
joke,
them,
though. Like
I know, but I think you can make them as honorable mention, actually. But I don't think you could draft them. I think that would be silly.
Look, I was being objective because Captain Cold and Gorilla Grodd are not on my list. Because I love me some Gorilla Grodd and Captain Cold. But, I had to throw them in the honorable mentions.
Oh my God. Every time I think about Grodd now, I always think of him in Legends being like, "Make America Grodd again." I love that clip so much. As he's chasing down young Barack Obama. I just love that clip so much. Yeah, that's what sticks out to me when I think of Grodd now, of course.
I love me some Grodd, and I love me some Legends, and I love me some Flash. God, it's so fun.
But yeah, so that's all of our honorable mentions. Yeah, so if you are listening or watching, send us your list. You can email at elseworldsdcfan@gmail.com, or you can hit us up on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Threads. Everything is at elseworldsdcfan, that you can catch us over there and send us your list. Or who you would have taken. Maybe just your top 5. Or maybe you could give us the whole top 15 if you were drafting all 15 spots in this. But yeah, really interesting to see how this one will be received, because we did get some feedback on the first one. So we'll see how this one goes. I think this one's a little bit more, like you said, I don't think you can really complain too much about where we picked each. I mean, I'm looking at honorable mentions. I think any of those could be in the top 15, but I think those are all for a reason in our honorable mentions.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we could have just done honorable mentions for an hour, like Ron said. Like we really could have.
Yeah, because I mean, you could still even go with Lizard, Electro. I mean, there's a million Spider-Man villains, Batman villains, Clayface.
We barely got into
Poison Ivy. We didn't even talk about Poison Ivy.
Oh my goodness! I thought
Look at that. That slipped.
I thought about Catwoman too, but I was like, I don't know how to.
Yeah, I guess we could have.
I would have felt wrong calling her a villain now. Like, it's just in popular culture, that's not where they've gone with her.
Yeah.
Yeah. She plays a little bit more down the middle, right?
She plays down the middle for everybody except for Batman. Batman, she's right on top of that stuff.
Yeah, or sometimes he's,
let's not take that too far.
Well,
we all remember the picture.
We all remember the picture that got tweeted out.
Yeah. Heroes don't do that.
Heroes do. Okay.
Heroes do. I was making fun of the controversy.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, I don't know where we go from there, gentlemen. Admittedly.
Well, I think we go down on that.
I think that means it's time to wrap up. That's what I think that means.
Science fall in the
Well,
background.
thanks, Ron, for doing this draft again. I think people might say also Punisher or whatever, any other anti-heroes could fit in here too.
Mhm.
But thank you, Ron, for jumping back on and doing this other draft. Love to have you on another time doing something else. We'll have to
We'll come up
think
with
about
some
what that would be,
ideas. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, it's been a blast doing these last couple episodes with you guys. There's, I'm sure, plenty of other drafts we could do, plenty of just other fun little things that we could think of together. So, yeah, this will be far from my last appearance with you guys.
Yeah, and like I said, you can send us your feedback at Elseworlds DC fan. You can catch all of that if you didn't write that down is in the show notes on the podcast app and also on YouTube. And I guess next week, Chris, are we doing our Dark Knight anniversary?
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, people may not like it, but
Now
we'll...
I'm like, do I want to do it? Like, it's like I'm about to get canceled, brothers.
It's just an hour of Jordan shitting on Heath Ledger Joker.
I'm like, at the end of it, I'm gonna be like, you know how I got Jordan these scars?
Yeah, no, I'll take it easy on you, but no, we'll do the, what is it, the 15? No, the 15 year
15th anniversary. Yeah,
15-year anniversary. Of
we
it.
keep pushing back our post-mortem rankings of the DCEU too. It's technically not over.
Yeah, because Aquaman and Blue Beetle too.
But
So
I'm comfortable just putting them at the bottom and just moving on.
Suffering.
We might save it for the end of Aquaman. We'll figure that out. Because we'll also have to talk about more content that's coming this way too. Is My Adventures with Superman is going to be. We're going to be talking about that. That's the new cartoon on Max and on Cartoon Network that you can Adult Swim or whatever it is on there that you can watch there. But yeah, so we'll have some stuff coming up. I have to get back on my Arrowverse grind so we can do more Arrowverse updates.
We can always go back to comics, and we talked about doing an
and
Arkham.
Comics, yeah.
When the Arkham games go on Switch, we talked about doing a little bit of that.
Yeah, that's in the fall, so you might get some Arkham coverage then. But yeah, so settle in if you're, worried about the strikes delaying some content. We'll be producing it for you. We are not on strike. But yeah, so thank you all for watching and listening. We will catch you all next time.